The king raised his sword high, ready to knight the first islander, thinking the man would be full of gratitude. But to his surprise, things went horribly wrong. The sword was snatched away by the islander, and even the servant standing beside him was stabbed to death with a single strike. The king couldn't believe it. This islander dared defy him. He planned to teach him a lesson, but before he could act, a sword silently slit his throat. Just as his vision blurred, he mysteriously came back to life, and the wound vanished without a trace. It turned out this was Eternal Island, where no one could die, but no one could leave either. For Jack, this was nothing short of good news. He naively thought he would rule this immortal island, but when he arrived with the army, a storm nearly wiped them all out. Now, only he and his servant were left. They broke into the grand palace, and Jack confidently challenged the king, believing that by defeating him, he would become the ruler of the island. But things didn't go as planned. Again and again, Jack died and came back to life, stuck in this painful cycle. And soon, self-doubt began to creep in. He had always been a winner growing up, never experiencing such defeat. That's when the servant spoke. Your past victories were only because you were the king. The servant's words hit like a slap to the face, and Jack, furious, blamed all his failures on him. Determined to gain true power, he decided to challenge the evil temple of Eternal Island. But when he stormed in with all his might, he found that no one was willing to even acknowledge him. Anger drove him to unleash his ultimate move, but when facing the king, his immense power was nothing in comparison. This time, the king didn't hold back. He easily stripped Jack of all his gear and tossed his crown to him. To the king, Jack was nothing more than a stubborn child. This unexpected victory left Jack feeling lost and confused. As he stood there in a daze, the servant reached out once more, encouraging Jack to start over, because the true meaning of Eternal Island was that everyone gets a second chance. Jack seemed to finally understand. But then, he turned and picked up the crown again. He could never let go of his obsession with power. With excitement, he made his way to the shore and placed the long-desired crown on his head, only to be met with an overwhelming emptiness. From that moment on, Jack was no longer the ambitious king, seeking to conquer everything, but chose to lay down the heavy burden of power, take up a hammer, and become a blacksmith. Years passed, and the crown that once symbolized the peak of power was transformed by Jack into a golden prosthetic, which he personally placed on his servant's missing arm. This absurd journey finally helped Jack realize his true worth, not in the illusion of power, but in living a grounded, humble life.